again, everybody, and welcome inside the VIBELAND Sports Studios. I'm Todd Miller. It's episode 38 of our weekly sports party, VIBELAND Sports. Glad to have you along. Joined in studio by Casady Fletcher. How are you?
I'm doing well, Todd. How are you?
I'm good. And then we've got a stranger here. KP's back. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great.
You've had a birthday since we've seen you.
I am. I'm a year older, a year wiser, and officially over the hill at 30. So
Year older, don't know about wiser, and getting ready to be a whole lot more stressed.
that's true, because we are 2 weeks away from the baby coming. So the countdown is on. The sleep is there. We are in just under 20 days probably of good sleep for the rest of my life. So fading fast, and we'll see how we last.
Sleep's overrated anyway. Doesn't matter. I don't sleep anyway, and I don't have a kid. So, what have you been up to? We haven't seen you for a long time.
Last Monday was the...
You had classes.
It was
you
baby,
were learning.
Yeah, I've had baby classes all week. So that's what's been going on, just getting ready for this baby, and you got to take classes for that. Last Monday, I think it was the diaper changing and bathing class, which, believe it or not, I learned something. So that was a necessary class to go to.
You know, I know that you and I aren't the best to be with. I get it. I wouldn't blame him if he went and did something else. But come on. We took a back seat to changing diapers.
Man.
That is a new level of low for us.
Todd, the way this podcast is going, you might be thanking me for that skill by the time we're done here.
Oh, my God.
I might be using that skill on you, buddy.
Oh, boy. That sounds like a good evening. I think we probably better have something to... we better pregame it before that happens,
right.
you reckon?
Absolutely.
All right, we got a lot to talk about. Let's begin, first of all, with the Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma wins their fifth straight, defeating Baylor 30-23. That game went to overtime. I'm telling you, I know that OU is clearly the class of the Big 12 conference, but for one school to dominate a Power 5 league 5 consecutive years is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling, and they have done just that. And kudos to Matt Rule and Baylor. They went from one win last year to almost a Big 12 championship in the next season. What's your thoughts, guys?
You got to give all the credit to Matt Rule and Baylor. I mean, hats off to him. Like you said, Todd, one win to the Big 12 championship game, to the second best team in the conference, and you played the best team in the conference. You gave them all you could in both matchups. Like, those were two great football games. I mean, when we're talking about this season, however it ends for OU, if you go back, those are two of the most exciting games to watch all year in terms of the drama, the back and forth, and just two, powerhouses going at each other.
And the stakes of those games
Both
were
of them.
so high.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one was extremely high, and then a few weeks later, that game almost washed out because the winner of this game was going to the playoff, I would say. So the stakes were even higher this go-around. And again, what a crazy game. OU back and forth all game, and then to go take it to overtime. Man, well, that was an awesome game.
Oh, man. And then the defense just doing what we've seen them do it at times this season, and it seems like the last month, they were taking Championship November very seriously. They were closing out games with these huge plays, one after another, and then in overtime in the Big 12 Championship, they do the exact same thing. They go out. Baylor had a 4th and 20 and almost got sacked again on that 4th down play. Huge props to Alex Grinch and what he was able to do to this OU defense in just one season.
You could almost compare Alex Grinch to Matt Rule. I would give Matt Rule a little bit more kudos for what he's done, bringing that program completely from the ashes. But think how bad OU's defense was last year, guys. They're now a top 20 defense nationally. We sat here in the early fall and said, if OU's defense, they don't have to be great. Just be in the top 80, you're good. He has them in the top 20 nationally. I think it's as good of a coaching job as there's been done in college football this year.
Absolutely. It's an incredible turnaround. And like you said, Casady, they had to stand on their head. And when they needed to do it, they did it. I mean, in overtime there, that third-string quarterback comes in and just lights a fire under Baylor. I think his first pass he completed, he threw for more yards than the backup did for the rest of the game.
Yes.
So what an again, in overtime, like, I like the play call from Grinch, but I mean, that's what you got to do. You just blitz the crap. It's a third-string quarterback in the overtime in the Big 12 championship. You blitz the crap out of him, and that's what he did each play, and they had no success whatsoever in overtime. Baylor.
Baylor is going to a New Year's Six bowl, but, man, they have to be sick to their stomach. Oklahoma's one of the elite programs in the country. They have elite talent, clearly better than Baylor's by a long shot, and yet
Baylor
they
had it in their
very
hands.
easily could be 2-0 against Oklahoma.
They had it
you
in
could
their
make
hands
a case
both
and point
times.
they should have been 2-0. No worse than 1-1 against the Sooners. So here's another take I like on Matt Rule. I don't know about you guys. I liked Art Briles early, but then the arrogance down there just kind of turned me off of Baylor.
Yeah.
Not only has Matt Rule made the Bears winners, he's made them likable winners, which I didn't know that could be done.
And you just said that you didn't like Art Briles for his arrogance. There was another huge
Towards the end. At first, I was a big Art Briles fan.
So even more credit to Matt Rule, what he's had to overcome was what Baylor did as an institution. They institutionally just went by the wayside on rape. They let their players do disgusting things, and just because they were football players, just let it slide under the rug. The fact that Matt Rule has come in there and changed the culture and flipped that program around where they were headed for the ashes. They were almost like SMU death penalty.
I thought it would be a decade before they'd even be relevant
decades,
again.
Todd.
Yeah.
And here they are a couple years later playing for a Big 12 championship. And from everything I heard about Matt Rule after the game, he was just extremely complimentary of OU, just had a great amount of respect for him. I guess he went up to Lincoln Riley, and they said in the post-game handshake 3 different times, told him, go win it all, go win it all. So he was a big fan of OU. I guess he tweeted out or whatever and said, we're rooting for OU. We hope they do well, rooting for the conference. I guess he said after the game, I can't name the OU players, but I think one of them was Bradley Howes.
Yes, and then Kenneth Murray was the other.
Okay, so yeah, Cassie, I mean, you can tell the story probably better than I can, but he said after the game, he goes,
Those players sought him out.
And they went to, he said that his team was gathered to pray, and those 2 players joined his team and prayed with them, and he just went out of his way to call those 2 young men out and say they should have been celebrating with their team, having this great time, and here they were giving it up to God with our team. It was unbelievable respect I gained from Matt Rule after that game for the way he handled himself on the field and off the field.
I'm surprised. Excuse me. I'm surprised we haven't heard his name in association with more of these job openings.
I think we will in the NFL.
That's where I think I think that's you're right. That's where his next
Matt
move
Rule is the head
to
coach
pro
of the New
football.
York Giants.
Do you really?
That's where I think he's going. My reasoning is the New York Jets tried to give him the job last year. He couldn't bring a coordinator with him. The Jets said, sorry, see you later. I think they regret that decision. I think the other
Adam
team
Gase
in
is a
town
horrible coach.
is going to learn from that decision and capitalize on it and go open the banks for Matt Rule. So that's my hot take. My hot pick is Matt Rule.
So do you
to
think
the
the word
Giants.
has been out there that, look, I'm happy at Baylor. I'm probably not going to move anywhere in college. My next move is going to be in the NFL.
I think so too. What do you do if you're Baylor? Because if I'm Baylor, I sit him in a room and I say, you tell me what you need.
Write a
and
number down.
Write it down. Here's the signature. You fill in the blanks, sir. Mr. Matt Rule. This is Baylor University. We're signing it right here. Matt Rule, you write the contract right above it. Whatever you want is yours.
How many decades would you like to be our coach?
That's what you have to do. He saved them. They are like a phoenix from the ashes. That program was in shambles, and here we are. Todd, you said it perfectly. You thought it would be decades, and here we are 2 years later.
Unbelievable job by Matt Rule. The Baylor Bears finishing runner-up in the Big 12 Conference after winning one game the year before. And again, had a chance to beat Oklahoma not only once but twice. Congratulations to Baylor, an outstanding championship game, an outstanding season, and go Bears. We hope hope they win big in the New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get so fired up on the Bears and kind of overshadow the OU's going to another college football playoff here. So sorry about that. But again, I was just blown away and very impressed with Matt Rule after the game.
Of course, we'll talk more about the college football playoffs coming up later this month in terms of what the outlook is for Oklahoma State, and the rest of the Big 12 in the not only football playoff but the bowl season as well. I think, just quickly, if I read this right, that every single Big 12 team is an underdog in their bowl game this year. I think I read that right.
The disrespect is real.
It is very real. All right, the Heisman Trophy finalists were announced. Really no surprise. I wasn't certain that they would take 4 to New York. They did take 4. Chase Young, Justin Fields, teammates at Ohio State, Jalen Hurts from Oklahoma, and Joe Burrow from LSU. The big snubs, Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin, Chuba Hubbard from Oklahoma State. Cowboys, I understand why they're disgusted. I do. I mean, he had a great season, one of the best single-season rushing campaigns in Big 12 conference history, in school history.
Well, it was like one of the top 40 all time.
It
right?
was. But the problem is, it's never going to happen for a guy that plays on a 4-loss team. I don't care.
And at that position.
The running back position in college football has become so overlooked that now you have a defensive player and not 2 outstanding running backs going to New York. And it's been even surpassed by wide receivers as well. I mean, it's probably the 3rd most looked at position for Heisman Trophy winners. What do you guys think? Do you think Chuba Hubbard should have been there?
Yes.
I think so, absolutely. And why not make it a 5 or a 6 guy invite? I know you don't make it.
But that's what it would have turned into if Hubbard had been there. Look, I had no problem with it. I think Chuba Hubbard is a hell of a player, and I think he's probably even a better guy.
Yeah.
I would have had no problem with it. But at some point, you've got to cut this thing off.
Yeah.
Because if you have Hubbard, then you've got to have Jonathan Taylor. Then all of a sudden, you've got 6 players there. And then you got other guys going, well, why am I not here? Why is my guy not here? This is a national vote, and here's what I think hurt Chuba Hubbard. I don't think a lot of national people see much of Oklahoma State. I think they see the numbers, and they think he plays in the Big 12. He plays on a team that lost 4 games. He plays on a program that's not a championship caliber program. And I'm not saying any of that's right, because this is an individual award. But unfortunately, team success has an awful lot to do with it.
I think this more than ever has proved that to be true, that it's a lot of the award has to do with your team success.
Well, when you have 2 players from Ohio State making the finals.
2 players from Ohio State. Every player there is playing in the college football playoff.
Yep.
Now, Todd, you made a great point. The national media doesn't get to see a lot of Chuba. You would say the local media, the conference media, sees a lot of Chuba. They elected him Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year.
See, I'm going to dispute this for just a second, okay? I'm seeing Oklahoma State fans say, well, Jalen Hurts isn't even the best player of the Big 12 Conference. Do you really think Chuba Hubbard is a better player than Jalen Hurts? Here's why. He was named the Offensive Player of the Year, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. I mean, the dude put up almost 2,000 yards rushing. I have no problem with it. And he did it for the last month of the season, being the only guy in town. But if Jalen Hurts had been in Norman more than a year, he would have won Offensive Player of the Year award. I believe this. The reason he didn't win it was because he was named the Big 12 Conference Newcomer of the Year.
That's fair. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts was going to win an award. And I think it would have taken Chuba Hubbard out of Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year if he hadn't been eligible for Newcomer of the Year.
Possibly.
And I'm not wearing crimson glasses because I have no problem whatsoever
that's a good
with
point.
Chuba Hubbard being named Conference Offensive Player of the Year. I don't think he's a better all-around football player, I'm sorry, than Jalen Hurts.
And he didn't, again, back when we're talking about the Heisman Award and what it is for, Jalen Hurts deserves to be there more than Chuba because he's the quarterback of a 1-loss team playing in the college football playoff. For the Heisman, that checks a lot more boxes than a 4-loss running back on a middle-of-the-road Big 12
And
team.
here's one of the problems, and we've had this discussion on this podcast before, and we can go back and listen to it again after the show's over if you'd like. I made this comment in August. There should not be polls and talk about Heisman Trophy favorites before anybody's ever played a game.
Yes.
Because you know what happens? You get on that list, and all 4 of those guys were on that list before the season started. It's hard to get off.
Yep.
Chuba Hubbard was never on that list. Therefore, it makes it very difficult, especially on a 4-loss team, to crack into the guys that already have been hyped up well before the season even started.
Yeah.
They should not even talk about Heisman Trophy winners. They shouldn't even have a poll before October 1st, as far as I'm concerned. Let's get halfway through the season before we start anointing people to go to New York City.
And this is another good example because the guy that's going to win it, Joe Burrow, he was barely mentioned before the season started, and he's going to win the thing. So there you go.
And I think that hurts it too. I think in the past, we've seen 5 guys or more make it when it's not just readily apparent who's going to win. I think the fact that it's so obvious that Joe Burrow is going to win this, and possibly by some historic margins, that I think they really narrowed the field down. And
that's why you don't do 5. Yeah, I'm with you.
And that's probably why he didn't make it to New York.
As an OSU fan, I'm sitting here. In my poke heart, I feel like Chuba deserves it, but I'll take the Big 12 Player of the Year. He deserves. I mean, what a season he had. He just deserves accolades. Is
Agreed.
All I'm saying.
I will never fault an Oklahoma State fan for being upset about him not being there. But I think you have to step back and look at the whole picture as to why he is not there. I think you're right. Being Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year in an offensive league like that is a really, really special award.
Absolutely. And I'm realizing what the Heisman is. Maybe, do you think, let's say this, because the stats are a little different. Let's say Oklahoma State's a 2-loss team. One of those losses is still to OU. So
if they're on a 2-loss team, they're the second best team in the conference, and he puts up the numbers. Yes, I think he's in New York.
Okay,
I do think.
I think you might be as a 5th, or does he take Chase Young's spot?
I think he would take Chase Young's spot
because he's a defense. But again, Chase Young,
I don't know.
He's very good.
I love when defensive players are there. I love
Fields in my vote.
Yeah, I love when defensive players are there. Honestly, thinking again, with red glasses on, and Ndamukong Suh might have should have won the Heisman after that Big 12 championship performance where he about single-handedly beat Texas by himself. Yeah. And he got invited to the Heisman that year. I love when the defensive players.
But I'll tell you what's great for college football. They like this. They like this controversy. They like everybody talking about why Jonathan Taylor of Wisconsin and why Chuba Hubbard of Oklahoma State aren't in New York. I mean, I hate it because I think Chuba Hubbard is an absolutely special person. Let's forget about 1,900-plus rushing yards and more than 20 touchdowns. He is a great kid.
Oh, absolutely.
But, I mean, I can step back objectively and understand why he is not there.
Yeah.
Does he win the Doak Walker Award, or does that go to Jonathan Thomas?
That's a great point, Todd. Again, the stats point to Chuba. But I'm
going to tell you that the stats are very comparable.
I don't know how they ended up because Jonathan Taylor had an extra
has more
game,
touchdowns,
and he has an extra game.
Yeah,
in the Big 12, Big 10 championship, but I think Chuba still beat him in rushing yards.
He did beat him in rushing yards, but it's comparable.
Yeah,
and Taylor had a better season. So
yeah, his team did.
If I'm a Cowboys fan, and I hope I'm wrong, I think you better get ready for another disappointment.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I hate that. I'm voting 3 times for Chuba. I don't get one, but I'm going to vote for him because I think he should win the Doak Walker. I just wonder if he will. Do you, Casady?
I think that there may be. Well, I don't know when those votes had to be in is the problem.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think that could change some things. I think he deserves it though. He's the best running back in the country in my opinion this season. And he would have my Doak Walker Award easily this season.
I mean, his worst game was against OU with 104 yards and a touchdown.
And if that's quote-unquote, shutting him down, then, yeah, you had the best season of any running back in college football this season.
So, anyway, it's too bad, but that's just the way it is. Again, Fields and Chase Young, Jalen Hurts, and Joe Burrow headed to New York City. Sooners have their 4th representative in 5 years in a Heisman Trophy presentation in the Big Apple. How ironic is this? Jalen Hurts is in the playoffs. Alabama is at home. Justin Fields is in the playoffs. Georgia is at home. Joe Burrow played for Ohio State, who many think will face LSU in the national championship game, and he's in the national playoffs. How about that?
That's pretty cool. How about this? If Lamar Jackson wins the MVP and Joe Burrow wins the Heisman Trophy winner will be older than the NFL MVP. Joe Burrow is older
that's great stuff.
than Lamar Jackson. It's by like a month or so it's not much.
Whoa.
But Joe Burrow is older than Lamar Jackson.
You know, they on Twitter do this poll. I think ESPN does it where you can vote whoever for Heisman Trophy. I voted Joe Burrow. I mean, I just think he's played better than anybody in the country. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a fan poll. You're supposed to vote for your guy, but I'm just telling you, Joe Burrow's going to win it. I think he's going to win it convincingly, and I think he deserves it more than any player in the country.
I think, honestly, the only thing that's going to really be any kind of suspense about the night is, did he win by the most votes ever? How big of a landslide was it? I think that's really where the suspense is.
I'm going to also be interested to see where Chuba Hubbard comes in when they announce the ballots.
And
How many people voted for him, how close he was to being in the top 4. Would he have been the next guy to New York City if they had taken 5?
And same thing with Chase Young. I want to see where the defensive player ends up at.
Good stuff. Tell you this, though. We've got some great representatives in this state from both Oklahoma and Oklahoma State.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, you should be very proud.
Hey, let's have a real debate here. Who comes in second in the Heisman voting? Because first is decided. Who comes in second?
Ooh.
It's got to be it's Justin Fields or Jalen. It's got to be.
That's what I'm thinking. There's no way that
I'm going to say Jalen Hurts because I think he's been really, really hyped all year long because of the Alabama stuff. My problem with Jalen Hurts is the turnovers.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I lean towards
I'm going to tell you
Fields.
right now, if I voted, I would vote Joe Burrow 1, I would vote Justin Fields 2, I would vote Jalen Hurts 3, and I would put Chuba Hubbard 4. That's how I would vote.
See, I would put I would take Fields out and put Young in at 2.
Really?
I think he's been that impactful.
Yeah. I mean, he broke the single sack record with like 3 games to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what he's done.
And getting suspended.
Yes. I mean, and that's probably the reason why. He missed 2 games, and so I think that probably knocks him down to at least 3rd at the very highest. But I'm going to say Jalen probably finishes 2nd just because of the storylines, like you're saying, Todd.
Yeah, he's just been hyped from day one.
Yes.
And so I think he would have had a very, very good chance to win it, even with the year that Joe Burrow had he not turned the football over. Mm-hmm. But those turnovers just have killed him.
Well, and you can't go out and get...
I mean, about the last 6 weeks of the year, he was no longer a Heisman favorite.
Mm-hmm. And especially, when you go out and you lose to Kansas State, that pretty much puts a huge damper on your chances if the guy who's in the lead, Joe Burrow, doesn't have some kind of slip as well, and he never slipped for 13 games so far.
All right, that's our thoughts on the Big 12 title game. Also, the Heisman Trophy finalists. Again, the presentation coming up Saturday night in New York. When we return, we'll give you last week's results from the VIBELAND Sports Fan Poll Question of the Week. We'll unveil a new one for this week. We're going to talk Thunder basketball. And, man, I like talking about this team, as well as a little special topic we're going to discuss, Maps 4 that passed this week in Oklahoma City. I'm Todd Miller. This is episode 38 of VIBELAND Sports, a weekly presentation of VIBELAND, Inc. All right, guys, time now to reveal our votes from last week's VIBELAND Sports Fan Poll Question of the Week, and then we will discuss further. Who do you think is the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? Is it Urban Meyer, Josh McDaniels, Lincoln Riley, or somebody else? Surprisingly enough, in fact, almost half of those that voted said it's not any of the 3 listed, it's someone else. 19% of you said Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator at New England, and an even 16% split between Lincoln Riley and Urban Meyer. All right, Cowboy fans, unite. Is it going to be Lincoln Riley, McDaniels, Meyer, or somebody else?
Who is it going to be, or who do I want it to be?
I'm going to tell you, I will be shocked if it's Lincoln.
That's who I want it to
I
be.
just don't think it's going to be.
I don't think he's leaving. That's who I want it to be. Who do I think it's going to be? I have no idea what Jerry's got up his sleeve.
I wouldn't be surprised if Urban Meyer doesn't somehow...
Please.
Jerry's going to make his
Please
splash.
hire Urban Meyer so I can officially divorce myself of Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. I will not root for a team coached by Urban Meyer.
It's going to be
I can't stand the guy.
very hard.
Because you know what? The first sign of trouble down there, he's going to have health problems again.
You're not wrong.
You know what? Maybe that works out perfect. Because maybe Lincoln's not quite ready to go. And by the time Urban starts to have chest pains or other health problems, then Lincoln will be ready to move into the NFL. This might work out well for Jerry. Meyer never stays anywhere very long.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer other than it better not be anybody that's on the current staff. Don't you dare think about promoting Kellen Moore. He's had a pretty good season, and
if there was anybody on that staff that was deserving, and there's not, Jason Garrett would have been fired by now.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
Jerry Jones knows there's nobody on that staff, even for an interim basis, that's deserving of an opportunity at being head coach.
If it would have been anybody last year, it might have been Marinelli or Chris Richard. Richard was getting a lot of looks in the offseason, had a lot of interviews, and the Cowboys kept him. But I think now that flame is out, and the way they've played this year, nobody on staff deserves to be on staff. And Troy Aikman, I liked what Troy said during the game on Thursday. He ripped into him and said that nobody on the staff deserves that job, that they all need to look themselves in the mirror because there's a problem internally right now. And
he also said it starts at the top.
Yep.
And I love hearing that because, again, I don't like Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett should have been fired 5 years ago. The guy's got 2 playoff wins in now 10 years. That's not good enough to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. However, Jerry elected to keep him. So to me, it all starts at the top.
You're right.
If Jerry would man up and go get a football coach, not a yes man, and that's why I don't know that any of those guys are going to take that. Do you think Josh McDaniels, who I don't know about as a head coach, and I'll get into that in a moment, do you think he wants to leave the sterile world of New England and go work for Jerry Jones? What about
Why?
Urban Meyer? You think Urban Meyer is going to listen to Jerry Jones? Remember, we had a coach like that. It was called Bill Parcells. And Bill finally threw up his hands and walked away after he told Jerry, "You're not coming down to my sidelines during the game." Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Yep.
Lincoln Riley, again, the only way he goes to Dallas is if that is his absolute fantasy dream job growing up in Muleshoe, Texas. Because you can't tell me he can sit in that office in Norman and see what's going on in Dallas and not think, I've got it a whole lot better.
Well, heck yeah. I mean, look at the success that he's had since he's come to Oklahoma. I mean, he's done nothing but produce first-round draft picks, Heisman Trophy finalists, and make college football playoffs.
His boss is very demanding. Joe Castiglione is very demanding. He expects excellence. But you know what? He lets his coaches achieve that on their own.
Yes.
Jerry Jones claims he wants excellence, but he's not willing to let them have the freedom to go out and do it. So,
and if Lincoln takes that job in Dallas, Lincoln's not building that team like he's doing in Norman right now with recruiting. Lincoln's building that team. In Dallas, Jerry's building that team. And
exactly
if you don't
right.
agree, you're gone.
Results from last week's fan poll question of the week. Who do you think is the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys? Everybody, or 49% of you said someone else. 16% of you said either Lincoln Riley or Urban Meyer. Josh McDaniels, 19%. I don't know what you think about Josh McDaniels. Josh was not a very good head coach in Denver. Sometimes I wonder if he's a product of the system and a product of having the greatest as his quarterback.
That
And-
certainly
Does
helps.
anybody
that's the
agree with
coach.
that?
Yeah, I don't like the let's just go pluck from the Patriots because so many other teams have done it, and how many other teams has it worked out for?
How's that working for the Lions with Matt Patricia?
Yeah. How's that working
Not awful, but not
for
great.
the Dolphins and Adam Gase? I mean, not awful, but not great.
It just
How's
works
it working for the Texans?
because of two people.
Bill O'Brien.
It works because of Bill Belichick, and it works because of Tom Brady. And by the way, I think we have seen the crack in the beginning to the end of the Patriots dynasty. I wonder if Tom Brady will even be back next year. If he is not, who is their quarterback? Because they have nobody on the roster right now. And you wonder how much longer Bill Belichick is going to coach in New England. He may try to go somewhere else.
Oh, man. I think they're going to have to pull him out of that job by
I
his
think you're
cold,
probably
dead
right.
fingers.
I don't think you're going to have to pull Tom Brady away next year. I don't think he's coming back to the Patriots, if he even plays next year.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I said Adam Gase was the head coach of the Dolphins, didn't I, a few seconds ago?
He was for
He was, but I'm talking about Brian Flores, the Patriots. That's what I was
Yes.
referring to. Sorry, I had to correct myself.
Anyway, interesting times in Dallas. I'm just ready for the season to be over. I don't want them to get in the playoffs. I don't want to see a blowout loss to Seattle or San Francisco. And that's what it's going to be.
I kind of do because I think that definitely spells the end of Jason Garrett. Whatever gets
An
him out,
embarrassing.
For the
the
first
most.
time in my life, I believe Jason Garrett is a dead man walking.
I sure hope so.
I do
Todd.
not believe Jason or Jerry Jones wants any more of this.
I can't.
I don't. Here's what's they're not going to beat San Francisco or Seattle as the wild card.
No.
But here's what worries me. Here's why you just need them to not make the playoffs if you want Jason Garrett gone. What if they got hot and caught lightning in a bottle for a couple of weeks and went to the NFC Championship game?
You're
Which
right
I
there.
don't see that happening.
You're right.
If that were to happen, then I think it's a whole different outlook with Jason Garrett. It needs to be done. He's had 10 years. You had a miserable season. Go home. Let's start this whole thing over. I don't want him in the playoffs.
That's a
Let Philadelphia go get the heck beat out of them, because that's what's going to happen.
Oh, no. And that's why I think there's definitely only one team coming out of this division, and I just would rather see the Cowboys lose by 50 than the Eagles have any kind of success.
I just want Jason Garrett gone, and if that's the quickest way for them to stay home, then, so be it. All right, let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. I've enjoyed this team as much as probably any of the other 11 teams in Oklahoma City. Are they the most talented? No. Are they a championship contender? No. How many championships have we won? None. It's just refreshing, guys, to watch this group of guys gel together and play together as a team. And you look at the standings, they're in 7th place, and I know it's not even Christmas yet, but they're in 7th place in the Western Conference, which, by the way, is a bunch of underachievers. Mm-hmm. At 11-12, they're 2-0 on the first 2 legs of a tough 4-game West Coast road trip. At Portland, at Utah, they still have to play at Denver and at Sacramento. Ooh. What about this bunch?
They're turning it on right now. A little surprising. Then this, when you looked at the schedule, you just thought this is going to be a bad stretch, just in terms of the quickness, the turnaround, and the road trip. And they have responded, and they're winning in fun ways. Chris Paul pointing out rules with 1 second to go that benefits the Thunder. Steven Adams with a full court pass. Dennis Schroeder last buzzer-beating layup. One of the coolest plays I've ever seen in my life. Man, they are a blast to watch, and they're doing it in fun ways that, like, these young guys are coming together, and with the veteran presence of Chris Paul, I just love it. That game on Friday was such a, just a great example of the identity of this team, of these young guys stepping up when they need to, but having a veteran presence like Chris Paul to know the game and be smarter than everybody else out on the court, and to make a decision and point out something to the ref where they have to call a technical and we get a free throw. It was just unreal how everything went down this week. This team is a blast. We say it every week, and I don't feel like we're beating a dead horse yet. This is awesome. I love this team.
I know that Chris Paul doesn't want to be here. I say this all the time. I mean, he's not happy about it. The way it all went down in Houston. I don't blame him. He wants to be on a championship contender at his age, never won a world championship. I don't blame him. This guy, though, and we've said this on this program, Casady, has been nothing but professional. I watched him last year, as I think you guys did too, when Houston was in town. He looked like a broken down, beaten down old man who was just absolutely about done. He almost seems like, to me, he's been a little rejuvenated with this young team.
I think that's exactly what it is, and I think also returning to Oklahoma City for Chris Paul, I think that's got him back into that kind of his early days with New Orleans days.
That's a great point. Did you see the move that he pulled on Rudy Gobert the other night?
Oh, my gosh.
Where he was dribbling, he had Rudy Gobert come out to the top of the point. He pulls up, pump fakes. He does a fake pass. Rudy Gobert totally turns around because Chris Paul fakes him out so bad. Rudy Gobert turns around and starts running the other direction because he thinks Chris Paul has made a pass. Meanwhile, Chris Paul is still sitting there with the ball in his hand. Rudy Gobert is completely faked out, and he just nails the jumper right in his face. And it was just one of the smoothest, coolest plays you'd ever see. And old Chris Paul, I say with finger quotes there, did not look at that right. He looked like he was a kid playing on the courts in the street neighborhoods.
That was incredible. The shot fake got Gobert so bad that he had a chance to do 2 pass fakes. And the second one, he bounced it off of Gobert's butt and then just drained it. I mean, it was one of the biggest clowns that I've seen in a long time.
It's going to be one that's played at the end of the year. All those Shacked in a Fool or something. It's going to be on all those shows.
And so will the Steven Adams touchdown pass to
that
Dennis
will be
Schroeder.
That might be at the ESPYs. That was with one of the greatest finishes all year.
And you talk about the finish by Schroeder, and it was incredible. but the pass was it was
Unreal.
perfect.
Perfect.
If it is not exactly where it's at, they don't have time to get the shot off.
Yep.
And they practice.
And we're talking about the end of the Minnesota game. If you're not familiar with what we're talking
we're
about.
bouncing all over the place, but they practice that too. Like, do you remember the Rockets game last year where Paul George hits that three? Steven sets a pick at midcourt, but Steven at the end of game situations is always involved. He's either the guy that throws the ball in or the guy that it's thrown to. He's always a part of the play because he's a big body to set a screen, or he's a guy that can huck at the length of the court. So Steven is always involved in those plays.
And it was really cool. I saw a great picture of Schroeder
and
standing
Adams.
next to Adams, and he's pointing at the other end, and you can see the 1.1 seconds left in the background on the shot
They're
clock.
on the
It's
baseline
incredible.
talking to each other, and they're pointing at the basket. And it's just, someone was like, knowing what you know now, how cool is this picture? It's just an
It was
awesome picture.
awesome.
I'll tell you this, Steven Adams has been a real key to this resurgence for Oklahoma City. You know, he was hurt, missed some games when he was out there early in the year, didn't play very well. He's playing really good basketball right now, and so too are the Thunder. As we talk tonight, they're 11-12 and in the playoffs right now if the season ended in the Western Conference. And I know it's a long ways away, but man, is this a fun group to talk about.
And how about some of those young guys right now? How about Lou Dort?
Tell us a little bit about Lou.
He's out of nowhere.
He plays for the Oklahoma City Blue.
Yeah, he's on the Thunder at the moment. Gets called up, I think, because Burton was.
Yeah, he got suspended.
Whatever
for a game.
he did, I hope that he's not in the doghouse forever. There's been reports that, because he's creating any kind of stink at all, the Thunder don't like that, and they may be trying to package him with one of these other guys. And I'm just like, come on, I don't know what he did, so I can't comment.
I heard their
one way or the
post-game locker room altercation was the word I heard.
So and was Schroeder involved somehow in it?
I haven't heard that. No.
Okay.
I don't know who the other.
I think that was the report I saw. I didn't know if it was ever confirmed, but I think Schroeder and Burton got in an argument. So Lou Dort gets pulled out from the Blue, and his first two assignments, he has to go out and guard Damian Lillard and then Donovan Mitchell in back-to-back games. And honestly shut down Mitchell for parts of that game and did a really good job of at least staying in front of Dame. And I don't know, he just had some of these sparks about him. I think he had like 9 points and
I think it's
few boards the other
11,
night.
right?
Maybe he did
Yeah,
in the next game. But I saw on the OKC Thunder broadcast they named him Player of the Game for just going out there and doing his job. He played
That's
like
awesome.
20 minutes and was just hustling, involved in a lot of plays, just making the little things that you kind of expected from like a Andre Robertson type, but not as good on defense and a little better on offense. So,
Can I just tell you how disappointed I am with Andre?
oh man, we may not ever see him again.
He
That
is
was
never
such
going
a
to play
sad
again
name
for
to
the
bring
Thunder.
up.
No.
Yeah,
And in doing so, he's taken $30 million from this franchise. Now, I'm
Jeez.
not saying he's not hurt, but why do you have to go out to Los Angeles and rehab?
I think
What's
that's,
that all about?
they said change of scenery, and honestly, at this point, why not shuffle the cards? Like, just
Change
do
of scenery. He's rehabbing.
something different.
He's not on vacation.
I don't just do something different because whatever is here isn't working. I don't know.
I just a guy that struggled as much as he did on the offensive end and relied on his like lateral movement and the quickness and everything
Yeah.
that he did to be such a good defender, to sit out what it's going to be looking
That's
like
gonna be
2
2
years
years.
now. I don't know how that guy comes back and makes any kind of an impact on any team.
Not when his entire game is predicated on that.
No, and
You know, it's not
somebody
like he's
may find a
Carmelo
spot.
Anthony who could come back and still score.
That's exactly
he's a
right.
scorer. He's not a scorer. He's he's strictly a defender. I just don't get a franchise paying this guy, and I know why they are, and I'm not saying they shouldn't. But you're paying this guy and then letting him go have a change of scenery.
I
He's
think
not on vacation.
I think at that point they're just like, well, we don't know what else to do with this guy. We can't get him ready. We'll ship him away so that we don't have to worry about him. That way we don't have to keep answering questions about when's Dre going to play.
I wish they'd quit asking or answering. I would say
I would
we
too.
have no new news on him. Every day we get the update. Andre Robertson will not play tonight. I tweeted one day. I
dribbled
said,
the ball.
I got an
Oh,
idea,
boy.
Thunder. Why don't you tweet me when he will play?
Yeah.
And until then, we'll just assume he's not going to play. Like the last 2 years. And I know it's a very severe injury he's coming back from. I understand that. I just don't get the go out to L.A. deal. But, The other thing I want to talk about, Billy Donovan. Have we all been wrong on Billy Donovan as an NBA coach?
Man.
I'm about ready to admit I think I was wrong. I wanted this guy gone. But I'm starting to think that Billy Donovan just couldn't do much with Russell Westbrook on the roster.
We saw flashes of it in that Golden State series in his first season.
Yeah.
With KD.
And really throughout that entire playoff run, we saw him doing all kinds of interesting coaching moves.
But consistently, we've not seen a half-court offense
Not since then.
directed by Billy Donovan.
Spurts and moments, but for consistent, it's a culture now. This ball moves.
Oh,
and I love
it's incredible. and that's what I was saying before the pod here. There's times when I think we're making too many passes now, where it's like, oh, you had a good look, and they're giving it up a good look for the best look on the floor is what they're trying to get at all times, which I love that. I mean, constantly whipping that ball around the perimeter, inside and out. Steven Adams has become a pretty good passer and a guy that can kind of run the high post a little bit. I mean, we're seeing guys utilizing skill sets that I didn't even know that they had, and it's all because of this great system that Billy Donovan is finally being able to implement. And look, if this is what Billy Donovan's offenses were supposed to look like the last several years, then I'm sorry we haven't got a chance to experience it more.
Well, I don't think you could have experienced it with Westbrook. I just don't think you can. That's not his style of play. I'm not dogging the guy. It's just not his style of play.
You're exactly right.
Houston has mortgaged their future, and I don't think that's going to end well down there either. And by that, I mean I don't think they're going to play for a championship, and they've given up an awful lot. I think Daryl Morey is really in a deep hole down there after going out to get Westbrook and then hearing the news of the way he did Chris Paul.
Yeah,
basically said, "Now you're not going anywhere."
Maybe China will bail him out.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Got some fans over
One thing left to discuss as far as the Thunder is concerned, and we're going to go ahead and give you our thought on this. Usually we wait until after the Twitter poll to kind of recap. Our fan poll question of the week at VIBELAND Sports on Twitter is, if you are Sam Presti, do you do A, make a push for the playoffs, or B, continue your complete rebuild? If you are Sam Presti, what do you do? A, make a push for the playoffs, B, continue a complete rebuild. You and I touched on this a little bit last week, Casady.
We did.
And I think a decision's going to have to be made pretty quick. Although, KP, you say you're hearing that all the veterans are available for the right price on the Thunder roster.
What brought this up to me was I heard a report from Shams today that he came out and said all the veterans are available. Oklahoma City is looking to take on salary dumps from other teams. And Shams is
means you could take on as bad a contract as you want.
Exactly.
Because
they're
the
taking
worse
on
the contract, the better you reap.
They were ready to take on veterans from other teams, and all of their veterans were available. So that's the report from Shams. Then Woj comes out and says the exact opposite of that the Thunder are tightening down, trying to make a playoff run, and the only way they'll make a trade is if it's going to make a big splash and help them out. So I want to lean towards the Woj belief because as a fan, that's kind of more fun. Let's go make a playoff run, see if we can get disruptive.
I understand that your haul is not quite as great on Chris Paul if it's next year, but if this thing shakes out the way it looks right now, you keep him for a year, and the same thing. Next year, somebody's going to be desperate for a veteran point guard. Now, again, he's in the final year of that contract, so the asking price isn't as substantial, but to me, it's hard to go to your fan base when you're in it right now and say, nah, we're just going to go ahead and go forward the way we thought we were going to go for.
Man.
Keep in mind, though, the Clippers, Casady, last year did this. They got rid of a bunch. Oklahoma City now has a lot of those assets, and they still made the Western Conference playoffs.
I mean, that's very true. And I just I think you had me talk me in. You talked me into it last week that the Thunder, if they have the opportunity, go for it. And I'm cool with, who cares if you finish 7th or 8th, if that's what you have to do, if you have to slide in there and just barely make the playoffs. I see the Thunder, if they continue on their current trend, being one of like 5 teams left to make the final 2 spots, one of those situations where, and I say keep them together unless you're going to get some astronomical hauls back because what are you going to do with more draft picks at this point? You've already got
13
of them. I mean, come on. So, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys that we ship off, we're not swapping draft picks with other people or sending a player and a draft pick to get a bad contract and 2 more draft picks back. There can be some weird and wacky stuff that's going to happen. I still think that at some point, either this year or next year, this team is going to be just about skinned all the way to the bone. But if you have a shot, make another playoff run. What's the worst thing that can happen? You get swept in the first round? Who cares? It's better than if that's what your first year, your rebuild looks like. That's a solid foundation.
Yeah, I think though Casady people would argue that why not go into the draft lottery? Is that not better than being swept in 4 games or losing in 5 games to one of the LA teams?
I mean, where the Thunder would be in the draft lottery,
yeah, it's not going to be much.
No,
but you're still in it.
True, but I'm thinking like you're probably going to have 4 or 5 picks difference. Which, yes, that is a huge thing in an NBA draft where you may only have 6 guys coming out of this next class that are going to be, players in the league. But
here's my thing.
Man,
I hear about all these people going,
it.
"Oh, I know for all you people that want them to tank, it's bad, but they won tonight." Sam Presti has so many bargaining chips.
Yes.
He can pick wherever the heck he wants to pick. If he sends 3 first-round picks to get the number 2 pick in the draft, he can do it.
And all these wins are making the players on the team that much more valuable.
I agree.
Look at what this team is doing. Now someone's going to be willing to go out and possibly pay more for a Gallinari or take a shot on a Chris Paul at the trade deadline.
Then a Schroeder.
He's playing himself into a big
By the way,
contract.
people should have gotten him earlier because his asking price is going up astronomically the last month.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the guy is just the 3-guard system works very well for Dennis Schroeder. This pass heavy, lots of ball movement. You can be creative in the offense. He fits that style so well, and we're seeing his true value in this new system.
All right, log on for this week's VIBELAND Sports Fan Poll Question of the Week. Again, if you are Sam Presti, what do you do? Is it A, make a push for the postseason, or B, continue the complete rebuild here in Oklahoma City at VIBELAND Sports, both on Twitter and Instagram, and VIBELAND Sports on Facebook. We don't have to talk politics of the show, and this is political, I guess, in the true sense of the word. But congratulations to voters in Oklahoma City. They have once more passed MAPS. The MAPS sales tax is now MAPS 4. It's going to be about $1 billion for projects, 16 total projects throughout Oklahoma City. From a sports standpoint, it's going to be about $130 to $150 million in renovations for Chesapeake Energy Arena and a brand new outdoor soccer stadium.
Yes.
Guys, I am proud of this city for the pride that they continue to show that they don't want to be an average city. They want to be a great city. And I think not unanimously, but by overwhelming margin, posting MAPS 4 on Tuesday night shows the pride that the residents of Oklahoma City have.
Oh, yes. And I think that speaks to the success of MAPS, and then MAPS for Kids, which was MAPS 2, and then MAPS 3, which, I mean, you looked at downtown Oklahoma City right now, the Convention Center and Scissortail Park, that's both part of MAPS 3. All the renovations and just about everything you're seeing is happening because of the MAPS projects. The fact that we have an arena and that we have the ability to have the Thunder here in Oklahoma City, you can trace it all back to the MAPS projects. MAPS 4 is just going to continue the momentum that the city has. And I'm telling you, that soccer stadium is going to be huge. I think that having an outdoor arena where you can go and not only just play soccer, but now it's a concert venue. You can play state high school football games there. You can have all of state right there, just like you do at the Big House for basketball now. I mean, there's all kinds of cool things you can do. They're building it where you can renovate that stadium, where eventually if the Oklahoma City wanted to have an MLS team, we'd have the ability now the foundation of that stadium would be built. And so you add all of that up, and it's a very exciting time to be a resident of this city and just see the progress happen, because it is just daily. There's something new popping up, and especially on the sports front, now there's going to be even more to do in the downtown area and for sports in Oklahoma City.
To the naysayers who say, we don't need a soccer stadium right now because we don't have a pro team. We don't need a streetcar system because nobody uses it. The thing about maps that I have always liked, guys, is a forward-thinking project.
Very proactive.
Remember, we built an arena, and it's set vacant for a while. If that arena had not been available, the NBA would have never come to Oklahoma City.
Amen.
And that's not an obvious statement. That started because that arena was built, and the New Orleans Hornets at the time needed a relocation place. Oklahoma City was available. The thing about these projects, the old ones are continuing to pay for the new ones because they're generating revenue. And I hate taxes. I abhor taxes. If this had been a personal income tax, a property tax, my outlook might be a totally different thing. But when you can see what your tax dollars are doing by driving downtown, that's not a bad thing.
No.
And the thing about maps is, Josh lives in Norman, I live in Edmond. You live in Edmond, you live in Edmond. Guess what? We pay for maps just like everybody in Oklahoma City does. Mm-hmm. Because if we go and shop, if we go and dine, we're paying taxes. It's not asking 650,000 people to strictly pay for facilities and venues that everybody else outside the area will use. It's a fair, equal sales tax that is not a sales tax increase. It is an extension of what has been one of the greatest visionary projects as far as the community is concerned that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And like I said, I hate taxes, but this is not a bad tax. This is not an increase. It's not a personal tax. If you don't want to ever eat in Oklahoma City, if you don't ever want to go shop in Oklahoma City, if you don't ever buy gas there, you don't have to pay it. And what amazes me about the naysayers to maps, which I just think they're people that just don't like progress. And good for them. They can vote however they see fit. They can't come up with enough reasons why to even put together a formidable campaign. I don't watch TV and listen to the radio constantly, but I think we can all agree we're not certain we've heard one opponent ad as to why you shouldn't vote for Maps 4. They all get on social media and they blow it up. Good for us. We have a Thunder, we have the NBA, and we have a canal. We still have bad schools. We still have roads. No, those schools were paid for by earlier Maps product, Maps 2. I just don't understand why people are against, and they're obviously not very many, but why those people that are against it are against it. If it were going to cost you more out of your pocket, I fully understand that. But the vision of this community is second to none.
And the way that the process went about, there were multiple public hearings throughout the city all summer. If you had an opposition to a project, you could go have your voice heard by city officials. If you had a project that you would like to see funded, you could go have your voice heard by city officials. And I think a lot of that shows up in Maps 4. There's a lot of, the overwhelming majority of it is about mental health and providing centers for people that need mental health help.
A lot of the naysayers, though, Casady, say, let's vote on all these individually because it costs too much, $1 billion. Why not put it all together? There's something for not everybody, but a lot of people, and address a lot of needs besides sports in Maps 4. Mental health, senior citizens, animal shelters. Mm-hmm. It goes on and on and on.
City parks.
And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this. I tweeted it. You want to know what Maps has done for Oklahoma City? After the oil boom in the 1980s, nobody, and I mean nobody, came to Oklahoma City unless they had to. Do you know that Travel and Leisure magazine, which is a very, very highly respected travel industry magazine, for 2020, this is going to give you cold chills, guys. I don't know if you saw it. I tweeted it. Has listed Oklahoma City as one of the 50 must-visit places in 2020 in the world.
In the world?
In the world.
In the world, wow.
Wow.
Go to my Twitter page. You can see the article. Travel and Leisure. Do you think that happens without maps?
Not a
Do you think that happens without great leadership? Ron Norick, Kirk Humphreys, Mick Cornett, David Holt. By the way, great job, David Holt. Just like the other mayors before you. You never took for granted that this thing was going to pass. You got out, you beat the streets, you gave your message. You gave people an opportunity to speak up about what they liked and didn't like. Not one time did he ever take for granted that this thing would pass.
No, he was quoted tonight. He said, "Tonight we have the largest percentage of support in Oklahoma City. This is not just a victory. This is a mandate and precedent. We have never been more united as Oklahoma City."
It's a great day for the state of Oklahoma.
Agreed.
Because I'm going to tell you, whether you're in Tulsa, whether you're in Oklahoma City, those are the economic hubs of this state. And if those two cities aren't doing well, Oklahoma's not doing well. So give yourself a pat on the back, Oklahoma City, and give yourself a pat on the back over in Tulsa for what you've accomplished, too, to make this state a much better place to live. I travel a lot. It used to be, where are you from? Oklahoma City. Well, now people even go, there's good things going on there. You know, I've never been to Oklahoma City. I need to go down there and see what's going on. Saw a guy on a baseball trip this summer, a kid. His parents had been in Oklahoma City. Loved it. Loved it. Couldn't believe it. They're from Detroit. Loved it. They came down here to see what it's all about. That doesn't happen without the courage and the vision of the leaders and the people in Oklahoma City to vote yes.
Amen.
Again, I have no problem with people that don't do it. I just wish you had a definitive reason as to why this doesn't work, because it does work.
I think it's one of the greatest publicly funded projects.
I think it's the greatest
in the history of America, in terms of from one city as a municipality doing it. As far as I know, I have never seen anything that has this much impact on what a city was and what it is now. And I was just looking at some pictures of, somebody said, just in case you forgot, here's some screenshots of what Oklahoma City looked like before maps.
Yeah.
And that's the maps, or that's the Oklahoma City that I was a kid growing up and coming up in, when you'd get near Bricktown and you would like lock the doors and roll the windows up because you didn't know what kind of something was going to run out of one of those abandoned warehouses.
You went down if you were looking for drugs or prostitutes in Oklahoma City in those days.
Yeah.
You did. There was no other reason to go down there.
It was busted out windows in
terrible.
those brick warehouses down there, and there was one restaurant supply store in the middle of all of it, and my parents owned a restaurant, so we'd have to go there occasionally, and it was always a scary trip. And then now you look at it, and it's one of the most booming and hopping places that you're going to go to anywhere in not only the state, but America.
The best thing to happen to Oklahoma City, and I don't know how many people are familiar with this, but back, I believe it was in the 90s, Oklahoma City was vying for a maintenance facility from American Airlines. And it came down to Oklahoma City and Indianapolis. And they went with Indianapolis. And the Oklahoma City delegation asked, why did we not get this? The answer was, we couldn't see ourselves making our employees live in Oklahoma City. There just wasn't things to do. The quality of life wasn't what it is now. And from that day forward, Oklahoma City vowed that they were never going to be told that again.
Yep.
And that's when the leadership kicked in. That's when the vision for maps started. And congratulations, it's going to extend again for nearly $1 billion to encompass 16 total projects.
I'm very excited to see where Maps 4 takes Oklahoma City, because I've seen what the first three have done from the outside. Now I get to watch this one as a citizen of the city and watch it from basically my backyard. Watch everything happen.
And that's the key. None of us grew up in Oklahoma City, so we have a good idea of how it used to be and how it is now. I'm not saying if you lived here you didn't know that, but sometimes you're just too close to the forest to see the trees.
Yes.
I mean, it's unreal how this city has revitalized itself. It's unreal to go to the airport and see that they're doing another expansion project.
Love it.
And it all starts with leadership. And I'm going to tell you right now, I love David Holt. Love the guy. There's not a bigger cheerleader for this state, not just Oklahoma City, this state, because he wants to work with his counterpart in Tulsa.
Yes.
He is a terrific young person that gets it. He gets what the future looks like and how it can look like and how forever long he is in office, he could shape that. And it's just a great day for Oklahoma. I know there's people outside of Oklahoma City going, yeah, whatever. No. When I lived outside of Oklahoma City, I wanted an Oklahoma City like this.
Yes.
I wanted to have something to do, and I wanted to be proud of my capital city. Well, you know what? This state can be proud of Oklahoma City, and the residents should be proud of themselves, too, for what they did on Tuesday night.
Totally agree, Todd.
All
Well
right.
said.
One more time, VIBELAND Sports Fan Poll question of the week. If you're Sam Presti, what do? A, make a push for the postseason, or B, continue with a complete rebuild at VIBELAND Sports on Twitter. We will be back next week with a fresh episode of VIBELAND. It will be episode number 40. Man, we're getting old, guys. It's a long time to be together.
Yes,
Till then, for Casady Fletcher, for Josh Beal, for KP, I'm Todd Miller. See you next time on VIBELAND Sports.